I'm up at the family farm in northern Missouri, and I'm looking for a tree. Should be easy, right? I really hate selfie sticks, but I guess they have a purpose. Nope. Nope. Not you. Oh, that might be what we're looking for right there. There it is. Cue the intro. In the last video, I talked about the difficulty of separating the faith that I was raised with from all the other crap that was added to it. Today, I want to talk about why that is so difficult for me personally to separate those things out. Like anything else in life, I think it's a split between nature and nurture.
What are you doing? You're on my team.
There are no teams.
And I'm going to use this tree to show how that played out in my life. I've spent the last 20 years hunting and exploring on this property, and just like every other piece of land, there's a barbed wire fence that runs around the perimeter to separate your property from your neighbors. When a fence runs through the middle of the woods, sometimes what you'll find is that the tree will actually grow around the barbed wire. You could cut down the fence that runs on either side of the tree, but that piece that's stuck in the middle is never coming out. The Christian faith that I was raised with is like a fence row that pressed up against my soul as I was growing up. Even as I try to figure out which pieces of it are worth leaving and which pieces should come down, there is a bunch of it that runs through the middle of me and it's never coming out. If you looked at a pie chart of the things that TJ thinks about, probably the single biggest piece in my life is God, faith, deep existential questions.
And now, Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
And the only reference point I've had for that has been the Christian faith.
Side note, why is it a curse, right? It's just
It's
another
just a
word for poop.
Thank you. Oh my God, I'm always thinking that.
I know.
I fully recognize that there are millions and billions of people around the world who come from different perspectives, different worldviews, who are wrestling with the same things, but their reference point is totally different.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus? Not in this house of worship. Am I right? Honestly, am I right? I don't know the different ones.
I've never spent more than about 2 seconds thinking about the possibility that it's actually Allah that's up there and Muhammad's mad at me because I don't believe in him. After I posted my last video, I had several people ask me something along the lines of, why don't you just ditch the whole thing? If all the stuff that got added to the Jesus water makes it undrinkable, then why not just throw the whole thing out?
Take the fresh breath of the Spirit.
It's because there's a piece of that worldview that runs through the middle of my soul. One of the biggest examples of that for me is the concept of hell.
Name is Hades, Lord of the Dead. Hi, how you doing?
One of my earliest memories is from probably 5 or 6 years old, and it's the first time that I can remember praying the prayer to accept Jesus. I was sitting on the recliner in our living room, crying, weeping, not because I was so consumed with the love of Jesus and wanted to spend eternity in his loving embrace. It was because something in my 5 or 6-year-old brain finally grasped the concept of hell, and I was absolutely terrified at the prospect of burning in eternal torment. That stays with you.
Life is a fucked up mess. Oh, it's a shit show.
Even if my 33-year-old brain can come to the logical conclusion that hell doesn't exist because then God would be evil, I don't think God's evil, therefore there is no hell.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
My brain can process through that, but there's a piece of hell that is lodged in my soul that logic can't pull out.
I was born a defender of the hell made of sinners. And never did ever forget that it's still well equipped for quitters.
There's a part of the movie Inception where we find out how Dom knows that Inception's even possible in the first place, and it's because he's done it to his wife. When they were stuck in limbo for decades, it started to become their reality, so he found this place that she had hidden away. It sort of represents like the deepest part of her soul. He snuck into this place, opened the safe, he spun this top, closed the safe, and he left it. That planted the idea in her mind that she was still dreaming, and while it got them out of limbo in the short term, it had severe long-term consequences.
Oh no! Jesus Christ!
If you could go down into the limbo of TJ's soul, crack the code, open it up, inside you'd find a lot of these things that I've been talking about. That's part of why I'm doing these videos. I'm trying to sort out for myself what's real and what's still a dream.
The dream has become the reality. Who are you to say otherwise?
Last year I was in Central America with my friend Rob Graham shooting some video for his missions organization, and towards the end of the trip we were driving from El Salvador into Guatemala. Our van was stopped by a Guatemalan road gang. They shot the pastor that was with us, took over the van, drove us into the jungle, and proceeded to take most of our stuff. While it was happening, even though it's the closest that I've ever been to death, I was not afraid of dying. I felt a peace about it. There were two main things that I was concerned about though. One was if I did die, that I'd leave my kids without a father. And the second was that if I die, and there is a God, and he's the God that James Dobson loves so much, he might be mad at me for having all these questions, leaving aspects of the faith, and he says, away from me, I never knew you.
Goodbye, Larry.
We're sorry.
Wait, I like it here.
I'm not saying that I thought that was a likely scenario, but just in the moment, literally faced with death, that was on my mind.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
I'm relatively new to the concept of deconstruction. I've been doing it for years, I just never knew what it was. Another thing that I found recently is the Enneagram, which is pretty popular with like hipster, evangelical, deconstructionist circles. But once I got into it, it's actually really powerful. I'm a pretty strong Enneagram 1/8, which puts a lot of emphasis on moral judgment, right thinking, doing the right thing. As I've been deconstructing, I've sort of seen how my personality naturally dovetails with the evangelical Christian faith that I was raised with. There's this thing that happens with rocks as they're being formed where their magnetic orientation will point towards the direction that the magnetic field of the earth was positioned at the time that the rock was formed. And even though over time the magnetic field of the earth shifts, the sort of true north orientation of that rock is permanently etched.
It's science.
No, there's no way that's correct.
Through the formative years of my life, my heart was sort of set in stone with the magnetic orientation pointing one way. And as that orientation is shifting now, it's very hard to tell those rocks, hey, point the other direction. I'm not saying that it's impossible to come to a healthy place of belief. I'm just saying it's really, really hard.
But I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd.
For better or worse, sometimes I think for both, there will always be that piece of barbed wire inside me. And so I'm just trying to figure out how to move forward in a healthy way, knowing that that will always be with me.
But I am determined to continue. If only I could pray.
Anyway, that's all I got for now. I gotta run, trying to make an evening bow hunt, so see you next time. Nope. Don't say see you next time, that's stupid. So, cue the outro.
You're still here. It's over.